always a pleasure to teach Torah to anyone, to everyone, anytime, and under any circumstances. Teaching Torah is the greatest chus. Lately, a young man walked over to me. Is it true that the Rav paskined that if you're not a Rosh Yeshiva, you gotta be a doctor? Sounds like a strange psak. I said, I never paskined that you need to be either a Rosh Yeshiva or a doctor. But the next best profession I could think of, if you're not gonna be a Rosh Yeshiva, is to be a doctor. Yes, that goes without saying. You know, you're either healing the nefashos or you're healing bodies. But so teaching Torah is number one, even before becoming a doctor. If you could be a Rosh Yeshiva, that's number one recommendation. So it's always a zchus and a pleasure to teach and to inspire, especially this Hamoed, which to me is a very different Hamoed. Everything is different in the past 7 months. Nothing is normal. So usually Hamoed, I give a few shurim every day, and I see thousands of people, literally thousands. The biggest shurim are the Hamoed shurim. And this year I'm just sitting in my Sukkot. I'm not going out. I haven't been giving shurim anywhere, but I am extremely busy. And I'm giving many shurim on Zoom and different platforms. And I don't see many people bus of a dam, but it may very well be that more people will be listening to my Torah this Hamoed than ever before. So I thank you for giving me the pleasure and the opportunity. It's always a pleasure for me to see, I don't know how to call him, to see Eli, to see Rabbi Eli and his Talmidim. So it makes me happy. I don't have much time because this was very spontaneous. We didn't plan this in advance, and I had a very busy day, and I still need to write a few chuvas tonight. So I don't have much time to spend, but it is a pleasure. So let me share with you a short word in halacha, some thoughts and feelings regarding Sukkot, and then we'll take some questions. Very famous Bach. The Bach appears twice in Shulchan Aruch, but it's relevant to 3 different mitzvahs. Siman Chet regarding tzitzis, Tov Reish Chof Hei regarding Sukkah. The Bach doesn't write it in Siman Chof Hei, but he deals with Hilchos Tefillin. And the Bach explains, beyond the general concept of mitzvah tzichas kavona, which necessitates any mitzvah you perform, you must perform with intention, kavona, that this is a mitzvah. The Bach argues that there are 3 mitzvahs in which an additional kavona is required. It's not enough the awareness that you're makayim a mitzvah. You need to have additional kavanah, and that is tzitzis, because the pasuk says, "Tzitzis lamantis keruv asisim es kol mitzvosai." Tefillin, because the pasuk says, "Laman tiyeh toras Hashem beficha," and sukkah, because the pasuk says, "Laman yedu dorosechem ki besukkos yeshavti es bnei Yisrael." 2 of the great Gedolim, both were contemporaries, the Aruch LaNer and the Shoel HaMeishav, argue the same would apply to Matzah, Maror, and Korban Pesach. Because Rabbi Gamliel says, Psachim Kuf Tesvav, and we're familiar with this mamar from the Godesh Shel Pesach, Kol Shelo Yom HaShloisha Dvorim Elu, Lo Yotzidei Chavasa. Pesach Zeh She'onu Oichlem Al Shumo. So we do know why we eat Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. So this halach would apply to those 3 as well, and I say it cannot be. Because Moreh D'Shmait says the Bach, So why doesn't the Bach say it? If he doesn't say it, there's a reason he doesn't say it. Because the Bach didn't just forget about Pesach, Matzah, and Murah. So what I wrote in Minchas Osher is a very clear distinction. There's a difference between tam and tachalit. There's a difference between a reason and an objective. They're not the same. We know why we are required to eat Pesach, Matzah, and Murah. That does not necessitate kavanah. It is only 3 mitzvahs in which the Torah teaches us what's the objective, what's the goal, where do these mitzvahs need to take us, and what do we need to achieve by performing these 3 mitzvahs. And that is leman yedu d'reseichem. The reason I want you to sit in the sukkah is in order that your generation should know and remember Anani Yaakov. And the same leman tizkeru v'asisem, and the same is leman tiyateres Hashem b'ficha. So the Bach writes, if the Torah tells us Tamei mitzvahs, we need to bear them in mind. What I say is the Torah of the Bach, in my words. Sometimes our definitions, our hagdoras are clearer than our predecessors. It's not my chiddush, but this is the way I understand it and I formulate it. It's not Tamei mitzvahs that we need to have kavanah. No, it is only the tachlis, tachlitan shel mitzvot, velo ta'amam. It's not the reason, but the objective and the goal. So it is only these 3 mitzvahs in which the Torah says, why do I want you to wear tzitzis, to put on tefillin, to sit in the sukkah? Leman. So I think it has nothing to do with Pesach, Matzah, and Murah. But I still have a big kasha from a posuk in Pashas Re'eh. When the Torah teaches us about the mitzvah of Maser Sheni, unlike all the other Trumas and Maises that we give away, Truma goes to the Kohen, Maser goes to the Levi. Trumas Maise goes back from the Levi to the Kohen. Maser only goes to the poor and the needy and the desperate. Maser Sheni goes nowhere. It goes to Yerushalayim. You don't give it away. You just take it with you, Sholosh Regalim, and consume it in Yerushalayim. And when the Torah teaches us the halacha of Achilas Maser Sheni Yerushalayim, the pasuk says, Leman tilmedo liyiro es Hashem Elokechem. So there's another mitzvah in which the Torah tells us what is the objective, what is the goal, what is the tachalit. Leman tilmad liyiro. So why doesn't the Bach add that on to his list of the big 3? Tzitzis, tefillin, and sukkah. My answer is very simple. Because the Bach is a pirush on the Tur, and the Tur doesn't write Hilchos Maser Sheni. Unlike the Rambam, that relates to all the mitzvahs Shebet the entire spectrum, mitzvahs anogas b'zman hazeh, the mitzvahs in Beis HaMikdash, the Tur had a different approach. And the Tur broke down the mitzvahs to 4 sections, Dalet Chelke Shulchan Aruch. He only briefly mentions some of the mitzvahs, but it's what we do not find Hilchos Maser Sheni, because Maser Sheni is not noyeg b'zman she'ein Beis HaMikdash kayim. Horachamon hu yokim lonu sukkos dored alei foles. Because we will be zeicha to be as HaMashiach, and I am quite sure that the Tur will update his work. He'll need to. So we'll have a new version of the Tur. I don't know how long it'll take him, a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then the Bach will update his work. So I'm sure that in the new version, Mahadur Tinyona of the Tur with the Bach will have an update. And the Bach will write, there are 4 mitzvahs in which you need a special kavanah. Besides kavanah a mitzvah, you need to have an additional kavanah. Tzitzis, tefillin, sukkah, and Maser Sheni. למען תלמדו לירוא את השם אלוקיכם. כך נראה אני הזדהיתי. So the Bach says, why does the Tur write that Sukkos are a zeichel anani hakoved? The Tur is not the Ramban al Torah. Torah doesn't give us commentary on the Torah. The Torah is Piskei Halacha. If there would be no nafka min al halacha, so why does the Torah write that those sukkahs were anani hakoved? So the Bach argues this proves that it's a nafka min halacha lamaisa. What you need to bear in mind, you need to have kavanah. Ani hakoton lani azdaiti. I think there are various different sources in the Torah in which the Torah gives us some background, which is not negei halacha lamaisa. So who am I to argue with a Bach? But kachi darka shel Torah. I don't think the argument is a very powerful argument. There are quite a few sources in the Torah in which the Torah gives us background, which is not mamish halacha lamaisa. But the Bach is one of the greatest poskim in his own merit, and the Bach could. He could be machadish this on his own. So the Bach says anani hakoved, and that's a big pillar because the Sukkot of Yud Aleph there's a machlokes Rebbe Kiva and Rebbe Eliezer. Rebbe Kiva says ki b'sukkos shafti es b'nei Yisrael sukkos mamish. Rebbe Eliezer is the one that says anani hakoved. Whenever Rebbe Kiva and Rebbe Eliezer have a machlokes halachic Rebbe Kiva. So why does the Torah write that Sukkos are a zeichel anani hakoved? In Rebbe Kiva's opinion, it's Sukkos mamish. So in one of my tshuvas, I wrote an interesting observation, which I didn't see anyone dealing with before. I brought 3 different sources in the Rambam, in which the Rambam writes all the klalei hapsika that we have. Halacha basura, halacha Reb Yochanan legabe Rish Lakish, Rav Meisur Shmuel Bedine. All these rules only apply to the sugyas in which we find machlokes in halacha. But when the machlokes is in Musar and Chassidus, Perushi HaMikrois and Agadata, there are no klolim, there are no rules. From Tshuvas Rashba, I proved no. If halacha Rebbe Kiva, it's across the board, and it's not necessarily only when they have a machlokes in halacha. So this machlokes, what were those sukkahs, is not a halachic discussion in the Gemara. It's just pirushei hamikrois. What were those sukkahs? And therefore the Torah decides to accept Rebbe Eliezer's ruling. It's more reasonable. We are to remember a great miracle, anani hakoved. So what is Rebbe Kiva's point in Sukkos Mamish? So why do we need to remember those sukkahs? My feeling is this. The machlokes Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Kiva goes beyond what were those sukkahs. And they touch upon the very essence of Chag HaSukkos. What is it all about? Rebbe Eliezer says it's about anani hakoved, miracles. Rebbe Kiva says, it's not that he said it, it's what I say, trying to understand Rebbe Kiva. We have enough miracles to remember. Kriyas Yamsuf, Esem Makis, Mamed Har Sinai. Sukkot is not about another miracle, anani hakoved. Sukkot is different in essence. Sukkot is Zucharti lo chesed ne'urayich ahavas klolisayich. Sukkot is about remembering Rachamei Shomayim, that were with us in better times and in worse. 40 years in the desert. And those 40 years, we had tremendous fluctuations, ups and downs. Mishmei Shemaya ad umke de Tohoma Rabba. We had the Egel and the Meraglim and the Messianim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu never let us down. We were traveling a desert. Mokai Nachash va'akrav. Tziyav itzel mavet. The desert doesn't sustain life. It's the most dangerous place in the world, on the planet. It is the only topography that cannot sustain life. And all we had was Sukkot Mamish, Pselis Goyim V'Yekev. And we prevailed. That is what we need to remember. So according to Rebbe Eliezer, just like Shavuos and Pesach, it's all about miracles. What we need to remember is Nisim V'Niflois, miracles. Rebbe Kiva says Sukkot is different. Sukkot is about the greatest miracle of all. Not the supernatural, but the fact that we were 40 years in the desert without air conditioning. We didn't have buildings in mind. All we had was Sukkot. Pselis Goyim V'Yekev. And we prevailed, and we survived. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with us. That is what Sukkot is about. So maybe this machlekes is not only a technicality, what were those Sukkot, but what is the essence of Chag HaSukkos? So we remember the Sukkot. We remember the Chazdei Shamayim. And Kodesh Baruch Hu remembers our devotion and our dedication. Chesed Nourayach, Ahavas Klunisayach, Lechteich Acharai B'midbar Be'eretz Lo Yizeruah. So there is a beautiful observation that we find both in the Kedushas Levian and the Meshech Chochmah. Two giants, different personalities, very different. The Kedushas Levi was one of the great Hasidic masters, Reb Levi Yitzchak Merbadichov. And the Meshech Chochmah was one of the greatest Gedolim in the Lit in Lithuania, Reb Meir Simcha of Dvinsk. Both make the same point. Kodesh Baruch Hu exalts us, and we exalt the Kodesh Baruch Hu. In our tefillin, what's written? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Gemara in Brocha says, what's in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's tefillin? Mika Amchi Yisrael Goy Echad B'Yoretz. The Kedushas Levi says, we call Pesach, Pesach. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu Pesach al Pischon Shel Bnei Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu calls the very same Yom Tov Chag HaMatzos, not Pesach. In the Torah, Pesach is the name of the Korban. The Chag is Chag HaMatzot. Lo hisabak b'tzeikom la'achmitz. That is about our greatness. We left Egypt. We left a land of plenty, of abundance. We went into the desert with nothing. Reb Meir Simcha points out in Parshas Borak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, mobilize the forces, v'tzei hilochem, fight Midian. Melchemes Hashem, Melchemes Yisrael, Nekoim Nikmas Yisrael, and Moshe speaks to the people and he says, this is Nikmas Hashem. So regarding Sukkot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers our devotion and our dedication. But we remember Chag HaSukkos, and according to Rabbi Kiva, it's not the Anani HaKavod, it's the Sukkot Mamish. We had nothing, and we prevailed. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu cared for us. So it's a beautiful Yom Tov, and it's Man Simchoseinu. Kol Hamoed mitzvah l'smoyach b'hem b'yemei HaChag, hoisu sham simcha yisera. So even though despite these difficult days and difficult times, it's Man Simchoseinu. And part of the simcha, obviously, is Simchas HaTorah. So thank you, and we should share many simchas.